Hi, my name is Sharos Walji. I'm here at Astral Connections with Derrick Whiteskycloud. Is that right?
You got it.
Derrick is a medium, psychic, and paranormal investigator. Is that correct?
Yep.
And he owns his own radio show called Z Talk. Derrick, tell us a little bit about your Z Talk radio show before we do anything else.
My show is called Between Two Worlds Radio on the Z Talk Radio Network. It's on every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, a 2-hour radio program. And I interview a variety of people on my program each week. If not, sometimes I'll just say, okay, this is my night to do my psychic work. So I go in and on by myself and I entertain the public. So those who actually call in and ask questions about their future or certain things, situations that may have happened to a loved one that's crossed over and they want to make contact with them, that's what I always do. So, but I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And I'm actually working on another new version of it's televised, besides just being radio. So
nice.
You get to see me in the chat room.
Yay. Derrick, tell me, you consider yourself a medium, a psychic, and a paranormal investigator, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So tell the audience the difference between a medium and a psychic, for example.
Well, my version is psychic is actually one who talks about the future. One that is a medium is actually making contact with loved ones that are crossed over. So I actually call myself a psychic medium.
Okay.
In 2 words, and some people will cross out psychic / medium, but I call myself a psychic medium. And paranormal investigator is actually someone who actually investigates spirits, ghosts, things that have gone bump in the night, so to speak, in locations that people may think that it's actually haunted. But I've always tell people I like walking in the dark, so I'm used to it.
Okay.
I grew up all my life in the dark. So.
Well, as a psychic, my understanding is you have a few more senses than some of the rest of us.
Well, it's not the idea of just not enough senses. We all have sense.
Right.
We have the 6th sense, and sometimes even call the 7th sense, which is a sensitivity.
Right.
Mine, I actually go into a huge amount of sensitivity. I can actually sense the feelings and emotions of a spirit. So if someone has passed away, for example, a loved one of your own, you may not have known how they passed away, or you may have known how they passed away, but a lot of people like to get the evidence. And so what I end up doing is I actually tell them how they passed away, and I get the last few minutes of their emotions.
Right.
And
so
it
what
could be
they
a
were
heart
feeling
condition,
as
could
they
have
were
been cancer, could have been something,
right.
but they'll show me the visions of how they felt before they crossed over. But then I also try to do is let that person know that they never really did suffer, but that's how we all go through different phases of our leaving this world.
Derrick, in your life, there must have been a point where you started recognizing that you were able to sense these things,
Mm-hmm.
And before you actually realized that you were a full medium or a psychic. Or tell me a little bit about that. What that experience was like. Well, realizing it.
I would say most of it actually started. One of the stories actually, when I was 8 years old, I was in Saskatchewan, a place called Red Jacket, which was actually a man-made river, and it was a place I did myself as a kid, 8 years old. I had no idea that it was actually quite deep. We thought it was just shallow because I saw a bunch of kids my age jumping off this big, huge 2x12 board, and they were swimming. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll do the same thing. Jumped off, and didn't realize it was 9 feet deep, and I was drowning. And my parents weren't around to see it. And as I'm going down for the count, and I was going down, I can remember going down, I'll never forget that day. Then I felt someone behind me or down below me just give me the big push up to the surface, and then they shoved me into this kid. And this kid grabbed me and pulled me to shore because I actually had my arms flailing, so to speak. They brought me to shore, and then they said a couple of kids said they saw an RCMP officer in a red uniform, a red coat, push me to the surface. They never did find him. So I believe he was a ghost. His spirit was there because in that area of Red Jacket, it was considered at one time a battleground where he may have died. And so it's interesting how that started. And then I would say the more sensitivities, when I was around 13, 14 years old, when I watched this show called Tommy Banks up in Edmonton, And
what was it called?
The Tommy Banks Show.
Okay.
Up
Tommy
in Edmonton.
Banks, okay.
Yeah, and
I don't know. We're Vancouver people, so I don't know who Tommy
oh, okay.
Banks is.
Tommy
You're
Banks
gonna have to
actually
tell
was
us.
like Tommy Banks is like another talk show host, or like say, oh my God, anybody who's a talk show host was basically. And anyways, he was quite famous up in Edmonton. Back in 1971, he actually had a fellow by the name of Kenny Kingston,
Okay.
who was actually called a psychic to the stars. And he actually read for Marilyn Monroe, he read for Harry Truman, he read Lucille Ball, all these famous people, and he was very well known in his work. He's still alive, amazingly. He's in his 80s, but he's still kicking. And I guess when I watched him on TV, and I said to my mom, one day I'm going to be like him. I want to be like him. And never thought of it. And in time, throughout the years, and without even thinking the idea of becoming a psychic, many years later, back into I would say as a profession and in my early 30s, this man shows up, elderly fellow, come into the store when my wife and I were shopping, and walked up to me and he says, "Are you Derrick?" Now, I wasn't famous at all. I mean, I was just a regular guy.
So you didn't read any famous people
No,
in your lifetime?
No, not that time. And he asked me if I was Derrick. I said yes. He says, "Do you understand psychics and mediums?" And I says, "Oh yes." And he said, "I have a message for you. Would you be willing to receive this message?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "My directors sent me to you to train you." Okay, who are your directors? First of all, he had explained himself. He actually worked for the RCMP,
Okay.
and he actually is a psychic to the police, so he helps find missing people. And so I was quite shocked. I thought maybe his directors were the police. Like, okay, I'm in trouble. But it wasn't that way. And so he explained himself to me, and he actually read me, told me things about my childhood. There's no way anybody would have known. And so he told me that he was willing to train me for the next 6 months to become what he was, or what he is. And I had to, I trained, and my skills excelled very quickly. And that's where I started into recognizing the word psychic. But when I was a kid, I still had the gifts, but I didn't know that psychic word existed. There was never teachers to teach you that word or teach you the ways. And so I thought every kid had that gift. I mean, it was just normal things. I didn't really realize that. And my mother told me, she said it was a gift, but she didn't say that it was called a psychic.
Right.
So I left it at that. But my mother was quite psychic herself.
Was there something specific that happened in your life as your childhood that your mother said to you that was a gift? Like, was there an incident that, did you ask her a question?
I would say the time that I was killed in the car accident, because I was 18 years old. I rolled my truck going down the gravel road. I had a 1964 Ford forward on the floor stick shift. I got that for my 18th birthday. And as a kid, I was interested in smoking, and I ran out of a pack of smokes, so I decided to go into town. It was 3 miles in town. Lived on the farm. And now the road itself, the gravel road, actually wasn't so bad going into town, but I guess I was in town for a couple hours, and by that time I was heading back, they just put down fresh gravel. And as I'm coming back home, I didn't realize that the speedometer was out 20 miles. So instead of me going 50 miles an hour, I was going 70, and I went into a skid right into the ditch, and I rolled the truck sideways 3 times. And I remember hanging onto the steering wheel like this, and
Your life
there's
passed
no
before your eyes?
seatbelt. Yeah, my life just passed into white light. I remember hanging on the steering wheel, I saw greenery, and next thing you know, like, whoa, I'm gone. And then I woke up outside the truck, on the ground, on my back, looking up, and my truck is on the wheels, on its wheels, but the roof was caved in on the driver's side, so there's no way I can get in there.
Right.
And the door was wide open, and so
Was there any flames or fire? Or like,
no fire, no flames. It just rolled it. See, the old trucks don't go through that, flames and fire you see in the movie. But anyways, I laying on the ground, I thought to myself, my dad's going to kill me. I just got that for my birthday. Go figure. But I staggered up on my feet, and I got into the passenger side, and I got in. Here I'm driving this way, back, and got out of the ditch and got home about half a mile away, and I just turned off the ignition and let go of the clutch and the brake, and it just basically stopped itself. My father was in the barn coming out, my mother was in the house coming out at the same time, and they saw the condition of the truck. And the first thing my mother said, "Oh my God," and you know, here's Mother's with a tea towel, and she's running up to me, and she's trying to find all the bloody spots, any cuts, and she didn't find no cuts, but she doesn't know how I got the blood. And I look at my hands, and she's looking them over, and she realized a lot of it was coming from here, but it was coming down from my hair, so she's looking for cuts, and there's no cuts. But the blood was there, and somehow it was seeping through my skin. It was really weird. I don't know why, but it did that. My dad came out, and he was really happy to see I was okay. I was apologizing to him for the condition of the truck, and he said to me, he said he'd rather have a live son than a dead son. And he says trucks can be replaced, but you can't replace a son. So that's pretty well started, I think, the shock. And then many years later, there was an old woman, elderly woman, came up to me, and she said to me, she says, "You had a tragic accident when you were a young man," and she said that you went through stigmata. Now, I had no idea what stigmata was, and until I found out later, it's the bleeding of it's called the raising of the Christ, or the blessing of the Christ Spirit, where blood would come to the surface of your palms, or your forehead, the third eye, through your feet, whichever is supposed to be your spleen. And I didn't know that until
whichever is supposed to be your what?
Either the area wherever Christ was actually sacrificed or stabbed, that's where the blood would expose itself.
Right.
And but that was part of his crucifixion.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about this, and so I did some research and found out later. I thought, did I have stigmata? You know, in my forehead, and I thought that could be it. That's probably what it was, because there's no cuts at all. But it's strange because how the blood came out is somehow it seeped through the skin.
But there was no.
But there's no cut.
No puncture.
No. And then it stopped. I mean, and then it continued on bleeding. It was there for a few minutes and was it. So yeah, those are the awakenings.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it waked me up. But I've actually had different awakenings, so to speak. I've had people, actually one person, spirit came down, or actually, like I saw like I looked like a beautiful light, like a rainbow, not rainbow, a beautiful white light come in front of me at home outside. Just stopped me as I'm walking, and they told me it was my time to go. And I got really upset. I didn't want to. I said, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. It said, it's time to go. You don't have to be here anymore. You've already done your time here. And I was really upset. And I said, no, I'm staying. So all I heard was the last few words was "go in peace," and then I was fine after that. So it was me making a decision. Right. But I could have left. They could have said, "Time to go." I'd say, "You're gone.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to be here."
I love that thinking that we kind of choose when we go.
Yeah, but I made my choice, and I wanted to see the year 2000, which is past that now. But this is back in the 70s. I mean, back in 1971, 72. So here I am.
You better not remind them, huh?
Oh yeah, tell them. Yeah, I actually told them I wanted to see the year 2000. I wanted to see the space age. Yes, right. Where are the floating cars, folks? But yeah, that's basically what it is. Because I remember watching a fellow by the name of Walter Cronkite, who always talked about space age.
That's one name I know.
One name you know, yeah.